Welcome back to Block TV, and you're watching Links in the Chain, where we get to know the wheelers and dealers of the sphere. U.S.-based Association for Digital Asset Markets, or ADAM, is a group working to tighten up regulators and regulation and anticipate best practices for the space. The goal, according to the website, is to promote integrity, fairness, and efficiency in digital asset markets. Joining us to break it down is Jonah Crane, advisor to the group. How are you, Jonah?
I'm well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. Now, recently, you published a 12-page, ADAM published a 12-page guideline of conduct for participants to standardize what are best practices in regard to various variables like transparency and compliance, risk management, business ethics, and anti-money laundering, amongst other things, of course. What are some factors that were taken into consideration for this code of conduct?
Well, I think the primary objective of the code, as you noted, is to sort of bring professional standards to a market that I think has had challenges in that respect in its infancy. And as it tries to mature, the goal is to lay out best practices. And a couple things we tried to do in putting together the code were we wanted to stay principles based because it's a new industry that is evolving relatively quickly. And best practices are changing in front of our eyes. So the goal was to stay principles-based so that we could take a flexible approach and develop best practices over time. And as you noted, we put an awful lot into 12 pages. We tried to be relatively comprehensive in covering sort of the key foundational issues with respect to trading and related conduct like custody as it relates to sort of secondary market trading in digital assets. So we tried to cover a lot of ground, but keep it high level and principles-based.
So as concise as possible so people kind of get the point. Taking a look back or a step back a bit here, how was the association even formed?
The association came together sort of over a period of months in 2018, and it was really just a bunch of market participants who were talking to each other and identifying issues in the market and areas where they felt standards needed to be improved. And they decided to form a group to do that in a more formal way. And the first project for the group was the code of conduct, again, as a way to sort of raise the level of standards in the industry. So, the 10 founding members of ADAM who are listed on the website are people who, many of whom knew each other and they were already working together in various capacities. And they just agreed that, standards in the industry needed to be raised, and they founded ADAM as a way to do that.
Okay, and ADAM is not a registered, is not a registered self-regulatory organization, aka SRO. Rather, this consortium that encourages responsibility or encourages people in the space to be responsible, and for what they're doing and how they're going about their business. Will there be a future move to become an SRO? And if not, what do you think will be the incentive for actors in the space to comply with these practices?
Yeah, all good questions. So ADAM is not currently a self-regulatory organization, but neither is anybody else in digital asset markets in the United States. Just take a step back. Operating as an SRO in the United States requires, you operate on the basis of specifically delegated authority from Congress or from a primary regulator, and that authority doesn't currently exist. If it were to materialize in the future, I don't want to, front run any decisions by the board, but I'm sure the board would step back and ask itself whether becoming an SRO was the right approach for ADAM to carry out its mission. But as things stand now, that's not really an option. So the goal is to, again, come together as a voluntary industry group and raise the level of standards. As for enforcement, ADAM's membership represents a large and growing portion of the market at this point across a number of different activity areas. We have trading platforms, custody providers, major lenders in this space. And we think the very formation of ADAM and the existence of the code establishes ADAM as a place where being an ADAM member means something, and not being a part of ADAM or not following the code, I think in the future will be viewed as not maintaining best practices, so to speak. So the goal over time is that being a member of ADAM is sort of a check, a good housekeeping seal of approval, if you will.
Absolutely. And I think with a lot of conversations about regulators and this space particularly is, do we need to reinvent the wheel on things, or do we not need to reinvent the wheel on things? Are the practices and legislature that we already have in place, are they suitable for this new market? clearly, I think, I could be mistaken here, but it seems to me that Adam works with the thought that no, there are things that we need that do not exist within regulation now, which is why we're doing this. Do you think that the code of conduct that the group created will pave the way for regulators to then adopt these same practices, assuming they are, they go into law, so to speak? So I'm thinking SEC and the like, of course.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think there's no reinventing the wheel. In some cases, there is no wheel, right? So we're starting from scratch. There are regulatory gaps where there's no direct regulation in the United States now. There are also areas where if a digital asset is a security, obviously it's subject to the full panoply of the securities laws, and likewise with respect to derivatives. So I think it's a complex space. Our code is intended to apply across the board. But in areas where regulation is not fully fleshed out, or where there are questions or uncertainties about future evolution of regulation, we certainly hope that Adam, as a group representing a large portion of the digital asset markets, will do a good job of fleshing out best practices, and that those best practices, our code of conduct, et cetera, will help regulators to understand the industry and hopefully influence the path of regulation down the road. But I think, and I want to be clear that we don't view ourselves as a substitute for regulation or, sort of replacing regulation in any way, shape, or form. We hope that, through dialogue within the industry and with regulators, that we can, shape constructive policy in this space and make these trusted markets.
While advising the group on this code of conduct, what did you find, or if you did, were the common denominators in what they wanted for the space, or what they felt needed to be within this code of conduct? And along with that, if you could name some platforms that have joined the group.
Yeah, so our one of our founding members is Paxos, who runs ItBit. They're a large trading platform based in New York, a New York DFS regulated trust company. They're the only current platform who's a trading platform who's a member. The rest of our membership, which is available on the website, consists of a broad and diverse array of players in the markets, like I said before, from lenders to custody providers. And we added 5 new members recently. In terms of common denominators, it's really the broad overarching goal that's driving Adam's day-to-day mission. There are the practices that Adam is trying to address in the short term are all out there in the media. You guys are talking about them on a regular basis, but it's more than any specific practices. It's the idea of bringing sort of fair and orderly markets into digital assets, and building a trusted platform that players can participate in. And I think for these markets to reach the scale that our members would like to see, there's going to have to be more trust built. There's going to have to be professional standards, and you're going to have to see the kinds of traditional institutional players come into the market that I think you're starting to see, but you haven't really seen at scale yet. So that's the overarching goal, more so than any specific practice.
And so now we have this code of conduct. What's next for the association? What are some future goals?
Well, we're going to continue to work on adding membership. I think there are a lot of interested parties, and we continue conversations with them. The members expect to sign the code in Q1 of 2020. So the code is out as a draft now. We will continue to finalize it and work with existing and new members to finalize the code, and people will sign it starting in Q1. And so, I think hopefully as the code is out there and, is in effect, as it were, that you will start to see an impact in terms of the level of conduct and standards in the industry. I think our members are, hopefully already living up to the principles of the code, but I think having it in place and having people sign it will be a meaningful step forward from an industry perspective.
Thank you very much, Jonah Crane, advisor to Adam, for breaking that down for us. It was truly a pleasure to have you on with us. And for all you folks at home watching at BLOCKTV.com, keep on watching for more blockchain and crypto news.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.